This, of course, is the month every year that Help Kids Shine is front and center here at 610 CKTB. It's an annual campaign. It's run every year to support the Niagara Children's Center. It's run in conjunction with all of our radio stations here at the White House, and it's a huge way for the center to bring you stories that are impactful here in Niagara, raise awareness, and of course, yes, it is a fundraiser. That is indeed the ultimate end to this this goal, or the goal to the end, means to an end. Phrase it however you will. It's about raising money to help fund things, further therapy, hire other people that can provide therapy, because there's always a waiting list of families that need assistance from the Niagara Children's Center, and we try to help out. And there are some wonderful ambassadors for the Niagara Children's Center. The ambassador that we're going to focus on today is young Everett Sanders. He had kind of a rocky start to his existence, but because of the Niagara Children's Center, he's better off now than he was then, and we're talking with his mom today, Michelle Sanders. Hi, Michelle. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thanks. Talk to us a little bit. How old is Everett now?
He's 2.
He's 2. Oh, my gosh. They call it the terrible twos, but you must think it's the wonderful twos at this point. In some ways, because, I mean, he, as I said off the top, he did have a bit of a rocky start. Tell us Everett's story.
Yeah, so when Everett was born, he didn't get enough oxygen that he needed, and it resulted in an injury to his brain and a diagnosis of cerebral palsy. That was kind of his beginning, and how we, in the simplified form of how we came to be at the Niagara Children's Center.
How old were you and your husband at the time?
I was 26.
Wow.
And my husband was the same.
So for a young couple excited about having their first child, it was obviously fairly traumatic for you. It must have been like, wow, what is happening to us?
Oh, absolutely. Like, not the outcome. I think somebody told us at one point that the chance of what happened to us was like a 1% chance. No risk factors, just happened.
And so you have to be working through that, wow, why us sort of deal, and then you get through that. And how did you become referred to the Niagara Children's Center? How did that happen?
Well, Everett started in occupational therapy at the McMaster Children's Hospital, where he was transferred after birth, and he was there for 2 months. And when we were discharged to come home to Niagara, we live in St. Catharines, he was on the back end of things. They just started that process. It was very streamlined. Again, because of his diagnosis and the severity of it, he was automatically just referred over to the Niagara Children's Center, and we were linked up with an occupational therapist in the community pretty much right away. And we still have that occupational therapist today, 2 years later.
The same person?
Same person.
That must lend some continuity and be helpful. I mean, this therapist, he or she, must be almost like a member of the family by now. Oh,
very much so. I mean, she works with us. Everett has some feeding issues, establishing oral feeding, and she's our go-to person from day one with that, and that was kind of his biggest issue. And we're still working with her on that, and the continuity has been really powerful, because when you have disjointed therapy services, it can be really the level of care definitely goes down. But our experience with the Niagara Children's Center is that continuity and that sort of streamlined process amongst all the different therapists, because he's in occupational therapy, physiotherapy, speech therapy, they all communicate with each other and work as a team, and that's really beautiful. What's
the prognosis for Everett's progress because he's that deprivation of oxygen has sort of obviously affected pretty much all of his motor skills and all of these things. Going forward, how do you see this going, or how do they think he's going to do?
Well, that's the funny thing about cerebral palsy is when the brain is damaged, they can see MRIs what areas of the brain are damaged, but the brain lends itself in that it reroutes and rewires itself, so to speak, in that nobody really knows what the outcome is. And it's working with him through therapy that at the Niagara Children's Center that helps him to create new neural pathways and doing things a different way neurologically than someone with an undamaged brain would. And so it really depends on him. We don't know what he will do and what he won't do and to what extent. Everything is very open-ended, and that's where the Niagara Children's Center has been great in kind of guiding us through this process, because they see so many children with a variety of different issues, and they have that experience of working with them and seeing what can be accomplished.
So sorry to interrupt you, in a situation like Everett's, then, because you're unsure about necessarily how it's going to go, that constant assessment is pretty important too. I mean, they've got to kind of watch for signals as to where to take him next, right?
Oh, absolutely. And especially with working on his physical motor plan, making sure that, because he's a blank slate, and making sure that he is on the right track and not picking up bad motor plan habits that can be hardwired in the brain if they continue. They're really good at pointing out stuff like that and making sure that he's developing a motor plan that it would be something. Sorry, there's somebody at my door.
Oh,
I'm distracted.
Sorry about that. Well, they can knock for just a little while longer. Michelle, what has this association with the Niagara Children's Center meant to you as parents? I'm sure it must lend you. You talked about a plan, and that's something I wanted to talk to you about, because I've heard this from parents as well as therapists and administrators at the center, in the fact that you do sort of develop a strategic plan for each and every one of its ambassadors and its families and their families, to so that you've got something to hang on to. That must be very reassuring to young parents in a situation like you've been in. Like, at least there's a plan.
Exactly. I mean, you get a big list from medical professionals of, all the things that could go wrong, all the things that you might expect, all the statistics of what people do and what they don't do with this diagnosis. But they take all of that, although that big, overwhelming situation, and break it down into small, achievable goals, which is much more fair on the child and the family to. You work small steps and you achieve that goal, and there's that sense of empowerment and accomplishment. And then we work on something else, and they really break it down in a way that's manageable.
How long will Everett be involved with the Niagara Children's Center? Is this like a life connection, or how do you think of this going forward?
In Everett's case, he will. This is like I said, nothing is set in stone, and you don't know what's going to happen. But my guess is that he'd be in therapy for the majority of his life. Now, the Niagara Children's Center helps out children that I think the majority of their services are with younger children.
Right.
But some of their departments and services do extend into older children as well. So. It's hard to say.
Again, it's sort of an ongoing evaluation. Yeah. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. Those of us that have children and have not had the challenges that you have think of ourselves as incredibly lucky that we managed to avoid those issues. And our hearts go out to you and Everett, and obviously kudos to the Niagara Children's Center, so that we can maybe raise some more funds, get some more therapists, and pull some of those people off the waiting list and put them in the kind of care that Everett has had. Thanks, Michelle.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You can go answer your door now. I'll let you go. 1:28 is the time at 610 CKTB. Coming up after the news at 1:30, we're going to be chatting with a fellow. It's actually been about a year since we had our last conversation with Peter Whittier. He is one of the dancing dudes. We're talking about raising money here for the Niagara Children's Center, and of course, I'll give you that contact information in just a second. This is another fabulous charitable cause that happens every single year here and, actually around the calendar, but this is a year where we shine a light on this. The Niagara Academy for the Performing Arts Dancing Dudes. Coming up, one of the members of that team is coming up after the news break in just a minute. I do want to remind you, though, that you can become a Help Kids Shine Club monthly Giving Club member. All you have to do is call 905-688-3550 or go to 610ckTB.com and click on features, and you'll find us, or go to helpkidsshine.ca. There are a lot of ways that you can help us help the Niagara Children's Center. And once again, thank you to Michelle Sanders, mom of Everett, for being with us today.